Hello, folks. Welcome to Wake Up Call. I'm your producer and host, Al Wilson. Oh boy, I'm going to try not to blow it, overstep it so much that I get myself whacked for tonight's show. So I'm trying to control my temper. By the way, I'm leaving Tucson for a while. Not a very long while, well, a few weeks, something. Between 2 weeks and a month. To go out of state. I'll be back in time for the next show. I was sure of that. So the plane's leaving this Tuesday, the 23rd of April. So if it crashes, you'll know that our Nazi CIA, and that's not a slander, they were formed of Nazis. Nazis were hired to spy on Russia. So when Kennedy found out they were acting on their own outside of his knowledge or permission, and outside of Congress's knowledge and permission, in collusion with other Nazis that were taken, like our Operation Paperclip was all the Nazis. We took in Nazi spies with the CIA, Nazi like Mengele type doctors to do medical experiments here, scientists that they left poor von Braun out of the loop. He wasn't, he was kind of left out of the loop, but they actually have science that was so far advanced. They had the Nazi bell that was with red mercury. Now they even officially deny that there was ever any red mercury at all. Well, my grandparents lived right next to a big mountain where they mined red mercury. And anyone my age knows there's red mercury. So I guess it's just the red mercury, not the silver mercury that's all there is today, that actually was involved in some time machine type of things. In any case, what they're doing now is at least 100 years or more beyond what you can imagine. And it's all kept away from the public, because if it ever became known by the public, why, every need could be met without messing up the planet, and there's even ways of cleaning up everything, but they want a large portion, the majority of the world's people to die, and particularly anyone that has the option of defending themselves, and that means Americans too, of course, even though Americans spawned the plan to begin with, along with their brothers in arms, other super rich, not just millionaires or billionaires, but multi-billionaires, the super rich, like Rockefellers and Rothschild, third cousins. Rothschild has long controlled the finances of the world, even the private bank called Federal Reserve, that we authorized them to create money out of thin air, computer entries, and that, believe it or not, we don't even have a way of knowing how much they've created. They just tell us and we have to believe it. And then they charge us ever compounding interest on the money as though it were ever theirs even to lend. It's gifted to them to lend to us at interest. And just the compounding interest alone can never be caught. Well, in any case, let me back up a little bit. You've heard, well, not in the mainstream news, but if you're privy enough to know you can't believe a damn thing that the CIA-controlled media tells you, that they even monitor little local news stories now, ever since Koresh leaked the cat out of the bag that our Secretary of the Treasury, Lloyd Benson, at the time had a huge illegal amphetamine production ring in Waco. That's the real reason they killed him. And that they chose the timing to kill him to make sure, absolutely sure, not much of a chance anyway, but to make absolutely sure that the controlled media didn't cover the huge, bigger story that the FBI had been busted by congressional investigator Robert Lewis and his team having for child kidnapping, pornography, prostitution, and murder in Oklahoma City, headquartered, is where he popped them. Well, he started getting on my story, and it led him to ET type stuff, and then he was murdered apparently trying to send a bunch of people to jail for covering up all this high technology cancer cures for over 100 years. Free energy of all kinds, but I mean, how, Rockefeller, third cousin to Rothschild, who Rothschild had been named Bear. They were a Nazi corporation. They formed after they found Solomon's, all the riches of King Solomon, allegedly. I don't know if it's true or not. But in any case, they did buy up and form a whole bunch of big corporations One of them, every year, the U.S. Secretary, the U.S. Attorney General, is paid by one of these corporations. I believe it was, well, at any rate, I don't have a lot of time, so I have to keep moving here. One of these corporations to not allow one of the patents to be utilized that allows cheap fuel to be made, hydrogenated coal, the formula, okay, basically, what fueled Hitler's war machine. America has more coal than any country on earth. Of course, Rockefeller controls not only has the monopoly on oil, just when he was forced to break it up, still maintained control of it, but just split it up on a bunch of different companies. But in any case, not only the petroleum, but the coal, apparently the electric as well, and I don't know if he's gotten his fingers into the solar part of it or not, but the bottom line is, and the energy thing about, ethanol, yeah, that's true. The tests that the oil companies ran and the government oversaw, which they usually only oversee corporations, they just have to take their word, like in the case of Big Pharma, of what's okay. In fact, the CIA just authorized Big Pharma not even to have tests, just to release it on the public and just let that be the test. That is so damned illegal and immoral that no media or anybody dares talk about it, or they'll be killed by Murder Incorporated. Give us the coroner and we'll control the town, right? Well, at any rate, there's so much to cover. But let me just move back a little bit. You've heard about all the drones. Now there's supposed to be like 30,000 drones within the next 7 or 8 years, autonomously run by artificial intelligence. Well, I mean, a lot of this artificial intelligence is smarter than the average person. But the bottom line is it doesn't really have the experience, the first-hand knowledge. It's a living entity, but it decides who it's going to kill for what reasons, how a person acts or whatever. Apparently, they have let autonomous living computers now take over the censoring of your telephones. I mean, no human-run thing has ever not let me talk to my daughter on the phone. I mean, and today I was telling a guy that his best friend died, and I was trying to tell him this, and kept cutting out, hello, and I didn't have trouble with any other calls. I've never had that problem. Then I try to call my daughter, do text messages, calls, hangs up, I call, it rings like twice, and then I'm cut off. Then I call back again, and it says, the number is out of order. Then I call again, hit the button again, it says, all circuits are busy, and then do it again. The customer is not, and my daughter finally called me. I guess they're not censoring calls from her to me. And she says, no, I didn't get a text message, I didn't get anything, no, but we've been having this problem more and more lately. So it appears that they're censoring so many people's telephones that that's given to a computer to do now too. But that just lacks the experience yet to really have a feel. It just does not doing a real good job. Besides, it's trying to piss me off. And any human censor, though vile and malicious, who were to get off on causing grief for people, would not want to tempt me to present evidence on the air. Of course, then they'd probably figure they'd have to kill me and then come seize the tape because there's not a live show this season, right here from the studio. And of course, if anybody protested here, they'd kill them too. But I mean, it's a free country. The secret police are free to do whatever they want. But the CIA was formed entirely of Nazi spies. And when they started taking over this country, Kennedy gave a speech saying, we've got elements of the military, intelligence agencies, big corporations, energy, technology, scientists, Wall Street. He says, basically, he just laid it all out on the line, a gigantic collusion of power for power and control. That's what's officially called a conspiracy. Hundreds of people a day go to jail for conspiracy. It's what you normally expect. It's collusion of power to benefit oneself unfairly. But now the too big to fail banks are even too big to jail. Not one person went to jail. And then the guy that was supposed to testify about the Liborg scandal, his son was a psychology major, working specifically in the field of mind control, programming to do things against your will and whatnot. He was one of the shooters, I believe, at Sandy Hook. And two guys that were tackled by the police running away in the forest, they saw him from the helicopter and they got him and cuffed him and threw him in the car. Well, the one they threw in the front seat, interestingly enough, who looked right into the camera and said, "I didn't do it," was a SWAT team member. He was dressed with the black top and the camos just like the shooter, who I'm sure that disqualified his dad from testifying against the criminals in the Liborg scandal. But I mean, that's pretty convenient. But all the local media talked about these three or four shooters, but by the time it gets to the national control of the CIA media, it's a gun controlling the mind of the shooter. A gun did it. We don't like guns because guns can keep us from taking you over. You've already been surrendered by the CIA, who illegally formed Das Homeland Security, talking about the New World Order. Those are Hitler's words. By the way, George Bush made that popular. Bush, you might not know, is originally spelled the German way. He's a member of a German death organization, the Tool Society, that Hitler was also a member of. So, well, but he's English. Well, English and German. You see, the nobility of all these different countries wanted to marry other nobility, but their countries didn't have but just a handful of nobility families. The Germans had nobilities of every province, so they had all kinds of nobility available to marry, and so they intermarried everywhere. But at any rate, the 24 executive orders. You know, executive orders, I'm not surprised by, hiding it in plain sight. Yeah, the president did to give it an air of legitimacy. Executive orders were only intended, they were created only to pay for by Lincoln, that administration way back when, just to fund like dinners for foreign dignitaries and things like that. Over the many years, it has been expanded to be the president bypasses Congress, both houses of Congress, and the Supreme Court, and secretly, dictatorially says such and such, and then it's even illegal to talk about it. You just have to obey it. So what did he do with those 24 executive orders? I'm told one of them is that he surrendered censorship of the internet to the United Nations, foreign enemy powers. Did you know that American soldiers that came back draped in Korean flags, it was because Americans were fighting under the United Nations in Korea, as they are fighting under the United Nations in many of the wars going on now. The United Nations headquarters is in New York. It trains its soldiers in a lot of the biosphere reserves, the larger national parks, which have all been deeded to them. Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone, it no longer belongs